I love everybody in this room. I'm so grateful for the relationships that we have. And if there's anyone new here, I look forward to getting to know you as well. Pastor Tim, Pastor Chad, and I are your board of directors. And we are your friends. We are on your team. We are suited up and ready to play. So if you will call us up and let us bat, we might help you win the game. But don't forget we're there. When you're 2 hours away and you're like, we're just running along, doing our thing, think, hey, remember us, we're here. We want to help you. We want to help you make decisions. We want to help minister to you. We want to help encourage you. We want to do the things that a board of directors, a board of elders should do. And you don't have it yet. That's why you're district affiliated. So we want to fill the empty seats on your bench while you're developing your farm team. You follow me on that? And that's why we're here. Now, we are carrying the load of the fiduciary responsibility. Do you know what I mean by fiduciary? Yes. That means that we are entrusted. Like, for example, Andrew's been in here. I don't see him now. Andrew is a fiduciary. He's my financial advisor. Now, he is bound by law to do certain things. If he breaks those laws, he's in big trouble because he's a fiduciary. So I always know I can trust Andrew. 1, because he's a godly man. 2, because he's my friend. And 3, because he is a fiduciary. Every one of us on the board of directors of your church is a fiduciary. And so we all are responsible together for what happens in your church corporately. That's why we require insurance through Brotherhood Mutual, because we want to know that it's there. We want to know what you have. 2, that's why we require oversight through APLOS in your accounting. Not because we're trying to control, but because we're trying to equip. And because we could make it really easy. We could just say, you know what? There's an accountant, and we're going to pay this accountant to do everyone's books, everyone's W-2s, everyone's stuff. But then when you need to go general counsel, you will not be ready. We want to equip you and your people to be ready. So this is why we're doing it this way. And this is why we're making these requirements, because as a board of directors, we want to be responsible before God and with the laws of the land and with your church to make sure that we are taking care of things as they should be. So if we understand that, we're going to talk a bit about deep bench leadership. I have said this, and I continue to say it, at the district office, many times if we have a situation where we're trying to help a church through a struggle, more often than not, it goes right back to leadership. Sometimes it's the pastor. Sometimes it's the leaders in the church. Sometimes the people that are leading the church are not properly equipped. They are not emotionally mature. They are not spiritually mature. They are not doctrinally trained. They do not have the proper skills to do leadership, and they are causing all kinds of problems and difficulties in that local church. And it's very, very hard to undo it once they've been put there. This is why when Paul wrote 1 Timothy, he said to Timothy, the young pastor and leader, he said, I want you to appoint elders. I want you to make sure this is like, I'm going to just paraphrase, this is Greg's version. I want you to make this a top priority of your ministry. Because he says, after he talks about building out elders, and then he talks about building out deacons, then he says, while I'm away, I want you to understand how we ought to behave in the household of God, which is the buttress of truth, which holds on to the gospel. You have something that you are doing that has eternal consequences. And so Paul says the leadership of the church is tied to the purpose of the church. And the stronger your leadership is, the stronger your church will be. I understand when my church was a church plant and I was a district affiliated church, we wanted to go to general council very badly, but I made sure that I had more than 3 people. Because how many of you have been in the situation where the bylaws require 3, and then someone moves to Florida, right? Then you have 2, and you're like, well, where's the 3rd one going to come from? So if you're down to the nubs, that's not good. You want to always be building a farm team of people that you can draw from to be elders and spiritual leaders in your church. The more you have, the stronger your church will be. These people are not just fiduciaries. They're not just board of directors like you might have at a bank. These people are spiritual leaders that will help you pastor your church. These are people that are spiritual leaders that will help you make sure that your church stays sound doctrinally. These are spiritual leaders that will help model to the church what you want your church to be. And God set it up this way that you and your leaders would be examples to everybody else. So what I want to do is just show you how, in these next few moments, how to build a deep bench of leadership so that you can have that kind of spiritual leadership, but also so that they can help you with these fiduciary matters, okay? The stronger your church is based on the quality of leaders that you have and the number of quality leaders you have. So let's go to the next slide. I want to say this. Winning teams do not just show up and play. Hey, we're just going to show up on the field. We're just going to let it happen. That's not going to work. And I remember the first church that I went to after seminary. I'd been on staff at churches. I went to school again. And then I went and pastored my first church, which was somewhat of a revitalization. And I inherited a board. And they were pretty good. Within 6 months, my very most trusted board member or elder was killed in a car accident. That tore me up. And we had to try to figure out how to build out leaders. Well, I went to one guy. He had been in the AG a long time. He had been a board member for a long time, but he was burned out. And he didn't ever want to do that again. In fact, he told me he would never be a member again. He was going to be there, but he never wanted to be a member. He didn't want to be a board member. I'm like, okay, all right. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to win you over. And he never ended up doing that while I was there. And I was there almost 7 years. He did eventually do it, way on down the road, but it took him a long time. Some people are not at the point in their life where they know they're qualified to do it, and they know it. I remember when my church plant was ready to go general council, I had some board members on my advisory council that were immediately placed on my board of directors, and that's typically how it works. You build out your farm team, and then you start to draw from them for your advisory council. And then once that advisory council has been well-trained and in place and they're working, then when you're ready to become general counsel, they become your first board of directors. So they were on there. But you know what ended up happening, and I blame myself for this. I had them on my advisory council with lower requirements and expectations. So then when we went to general council, I thought, all right, now we're all grown up. We've decided to move out of the house. We're cooking our own meals. We're doing our own laundry. We're paying our own bills. But the problem is, none of them got the memo. And they thought we're still going to function at this level. And I'm like, no, I want you to be this. I want you to be this. I want you to be that. I want us to do this together. Do you have a vision for it? They're like, no, I don't want to do that. So I lost 2 of them. One of them I lost told me he had started meeting with a group of guys in Carmel that were in business with him, and they were very serious students of the Word. Some of them were elders in their churches. And he started to realize under the conviction of the Lord that he was just not where he should be to be an elder. And to his credit, he said to me, Pastor, I'm not qualified for this role. My family is not in order, this, and this. I said, you know what? That's hard, but I respect it, and I'm going to release you from it. There were others that came on the board after that, and they served very well, and over time we built out a deeper bench. What I want to do is to talk to you a little bit more about my mistakes and what I learned from my mistakes and what I've learned even from being in the office that I didn't even know before I got here. Things that I see all the time. One thing is you can't show up and just do church. You have to build out the team that you want. And when I had that lower expectation and then raised the bar, I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done is started training people before I ever brought them on the team, and then over time selecting them with the help of my board of directors. And who's your board of directors? Yeah, right. If you bring them on without us, they don't know who we are, they don't care who we are, they don't think we have anything to say. But they operate at the discretion of your board of directors. They're not there because you put them there. They're there because we put them there, right? And if they understand that, that helps if there's ever an issue. But what you want to do is you want to build out a farm team. You want to begin training them. You want to train them in doctrine. You want to train them in the values of what it means to be a Christian, the virtues that you want them to have, the practices you want them to have. And so I'm just going to show you this next slide. This book, every one of you has a copy. You have got another copy in your room. I want to encourage you to read it, and I will apologize initially because I understand these were written by people that don't recognize females as leaders. And so I apologize to all of you that are ladies. That's not intended to be a message to you. That's just simply saying, this is a great book, adapt it, eat the meat, spit out the bones, okay? It's a wonderful book. In fact, this guy was one of my teachers. I really respect him. He has a different perspective, and he's not Pentecostal, but he has a lot of good things to share. So I just want to say, add the Pentecostal element. We have to do that anyway with everything, right? Go through it. If you see something you don't agree with, that's fine. Just disregard it. There's so much good. 99% of it you can use, and I want you to have it. It's a great resource. In this book, it's going to give you a plan for developing elders. So what you can do is you can go to someone and you can say, hey, Doug, I'd like to invite you and your wife to my house for dessert and coffee with my wife. And we'd like to talk to you about being a part of a group that I'm leading in which I'm going to train people in our church to be leaders. I'm not promising that you will be placed in leadership. I'm not promising that you're going to be selected to be an elder. I'm just simply inviting you to be a part of a process. Would you just please just come hear me out? Then when you come to my house, I have it all laid out. I tell you basically what we're going to do for the next 2 years, what we're going to accomplish, what's going to happen in your life, what could potentially happen in your family's life and our church's life because you give yourself to a process. It does not hurt to train more people this way. If they never serve as an elder, but they've been trained by you this way, you have made one awesome disciple. Okay? So it's going to strengthen your church no matter what you do. But I just want to encourage you to think about this. So then you take this book which has weekly studies. It's 1 page. It has some scriptures. It has a question. And it has some questions in it and some things for further study. You're going to ask everybody in your group to go over that page over the course of the next week and come ready to discuss it with their answers. So 1 week might say, how can I develop the quality of the love of God in my life? And it's going to ask some questions, some very pointed questions. There's going to be some scriptures to study. One is going to say, what is the difference between the human and the divine natures of Christ? And you're going to study it. Why? Because they need to know the doctrine. Our people don't know doctrine. And then one of them is going to talk about practices. Like, how do I pray with somebody that has this need? And they're going to think it through. They're going to prepare it. They're going to come. You're going to discuss and equip them on how to pray with someone that has a certain kind of need. Every week you're going to do this over the course of 2 years. At the end of that 2 years, you're going to repeat. So you're going to be adding new people. You might add new people mid-course if you want to, but I would just say do a 1 to 2 year cycle, then cycle back and do more. When he went to his church in Fargo, he had 50 people. It was a church plant. And when he left, he had over 30 people that were equipped to be elders. And that's the year I met him, when he became my teacher. So over the course of those years, how many of you would love to have 30 people that could step in and be elders? Right? That's awesome. 30 people equipped in a church of 600. So this is the vision that I want to instill in you, is that this is important work. This is important work for the pastor. No one else is going to do this. And you don't want to get to the point where you're general counsel and you're looking out over the congregation, you're like, gee, who could be on the board? You don't want to do that. You certainly don't want to get to a meeting where everyone's just nominating from the floor and you get whatever they come up with. You want to design a process that's foolproof, where you have your hands on the wheel and you're developing people. So when you get to the point where you're ready to invite someone onto your advisory council, or you're ready to form an advisory council, you can call us and say, I have someone ready. I would even say, introduce them to us. Let us be a part of the process. Let's make this feel serious, because it is serious. We would love to help you with that, because as you build this healthy advisory council, they will begin helping you. I'm going to just move along. We'll go to the next one. I want to encourage you to think about developing them in their beliefs and their doctrines. Think about developing them in their practices as a Christian. Do you pray? Do you fast? Do you read your Bible? Do you practice this? Do you give? And you need to list these things out. I would say, list out the top 10 things that you want them to believe. List out the top 10 things you want them to practice. List out the top 10 things you want to see in their life that are Christ-like virtues, like humility, love, gentleness, patience, kindness, self-control, these kinds of things. It's pretty easy. It wouldn't take long to come up with the list. And then the skills that you want them to have in ministry. Make a list of the top 10, 15 things you want to work on. And then teach to the test. If you wanted to pass the test, teach to the test. And develop the leaders to be what you want. Let's go to the next slide. This will be the last slide. I'm going to try to hurry, because I know that some of you are probably in need of a monster drink right now. Okay, first of all, I've never had one of those. I don't think it would be good. Okay, first of all, begin training with no guarantees. You don't want someone to feel like that if I do this, you're going to put me on the board. You don't want to attract somebody like that. You want someone that's going to prayerfully consider the will of God, right? This is serious. Okay. Secondly, include your board of directors in decisions about who is on your team. And we talked about that. That's Pastor Tim, Pastor Chad, and me. Let's be involved together as the four of us in making those decisions. We want to help you build that out. Some of you don't need an advisory council just yet. You'd be better off without one. And I'll tell you, my wife says this to our boys all the time. There's something worse than not having a date. And she's not talking about me. She's like, there's something that's worse than not having the date. And that is getting involved with someone that's not good for you. If you are so desperate to get this advisory council in place, and you lay your hands on someone suddenly like the Bible tells you not to do, or you get people in there that are not properly equipped, they will cause all kinds of havoc. So better off to not have them. Just let us fill the bench. We will help you. Let us do it. And then when the time is right, and we know you have the right leaders, let's start putting that advisory council in place. They're not still going to be the board of directors, but they will be more like student government. They can do anything that student government's been empowered to do, as long as they don't paint the cafeteria pink. Then the government of the school will say, you can't do that, right? But other than that, they're going to let them have more and more freedom. That's what we do, okay? All right. We want you to read and know your bylaws. We want you to also make sure that your council members have a ministry description and know what you want them to do. So if they sign up for the job, they know what the job is. And part of that's going to happen when you're training. And number 5, we want you to run your practice as if it's a real game. So when you do have a council, I want you to have an agenda. So you're going to have an opening, you're going to pray together, you're going to read minutes, you're going to have someone taking minutes, you're going to have someone giving a financial report, you're going to discuss the financial report, you're going to build skills. You're going to have an agenda of new business and old business. And then you're going to have an adjournment. Someone's going to keep those minutes, and they're going to give us a copy. The reason why is you're building skills, you're doing things right, you're practicing so that when you play the game, you're ready to play the game.
Right, yeah, that's good.
And I want to just challenge you with that, to take time to be with your board, to take time to love your board, to have fellowship meals together, to pray together, set the tone for the meeting.
Amen.
Make sure that you show that things are being done excellently, and lead with excellence. And I tell you, when you're ready to go general counsel, things are going to be working really, really well. You'll have a very strong church.
Amen.
Thank you.
We're here to answer questions, if there are any questions. Here we go, Darren.
Food okay at a business meeting, get more people to come?
Food is okay at a business meeting? Absolutely.
I always did that.
If we meet, we eat. I mean, isn't that our motto? I'm pretty sure.
I always had a 35-minute annual business meeting following a chili supper after church. So people were prayed up, they were full, and they were ready to go home. So we never had long meetings.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Previous church, it was always clear, the nominations were always given, but before we
Yeah.
could do this, it was always said, this isn't a popularity contest. I always thought, why do we have to say that? And then hear what you're saying today, it's more building,
Yes.
shoulder tapping. So that whole process in my brain, that's done. That we don't, nomination, board members.
This is not a democratic election for representatives. These are spiritual leaders that are being trained and appointed. It's different. Yeah. Yeah.
We're actively trying to become general counsel very soon. And I'm just realizing after you were talking, I wish I hadn't waited so long to read the Constitution Bible. I think I read them over when we first came onto the church, that's been a long time. And then reading through them again as we're going through that process, I'm really wishing I had read it more and relied on it more. In a lot of the earlier years, it would have taken a lot more things.
Yeah, there's so many things. If you know I keep a copy in your desk. A lot of the decisions that you need to make are pre-decided for you already in your constitution and bylaws. There's no need, you don't have to wrestle with the church people, you don't have to wrestle with leadership, it's already established. So having that constitution and bylaws can be your good friend. They can be amended if you need to, if there's things that need to shift, you need to add more board members or whatever, depending on what it says. They can be adjusted, but ultimately, it's approved by your church and they have a copy and they know what it says too.
Does anyone here need a copy of your bylaws? You all have the same bylaws. If you need a copy, just reach out to Angie, she'll get you a copy.
And when you're ready to go general counsel, we'll send you a copy of the general counsel's recommended bylaws for you to go through. And churches will tweak those and change verbiage and things, and then they come to me, and that's when I get involved to start helping you walk through the process of getting them where they align with our general counsel bylaws as well.